All right, so you wanted us to deep dive into Virgo and Sagittarius romantic compatibility, huh? Let me tell you, when I saw this request, I knew we were in for something interesting. At least according to this astrology text we're looking at. This is not your typical lovey-dovey kind of thing.
Yeah, not at all. When you talk about these two signs, straightforward is the last thing that comes to mind. It's almost like someone or something threw a wrench in the works just to spice things up a bit.
Okay, so tell me more about that. This text jumps right into something called and get this, the mutable paradox. So both of these signs, Virgo and Sagittarius, are mutable, meaning they change and can adapt, they're flexible, which on the surface sounds kind of fun, right? Like always up for anything, always moving. But can you really build something that lasts if you're always on the go? Isn't that the paradox?
Exactly. It's like imagine trying to build a house on like a moving foundation. You can do it, maybe, but it takes a special kind of effort. The text seems to say that the key is for them to figure out a direction together, for how they want to evolve. It's not about holding back, it's evolving together, even if it's down a path neither of them expected.
So if you're both kind of free spirits, how do you find that balance? Because then the text goes on and talks about this intense attraction, like right off the bat, Virgo and Sag, it's like, bam! But then almost as quickly, it can fizzle. Why is that?
Well, think about their energies. Virgo's energy is very grounded, like practical, like the earth, always seeking stability and order.
Makes sense.
Then you have Sagittarius, passionate, fiery energy, always reaching, chasing after something new.
So trying to nail down a Sagittarius, it's almost like trying to plan a cross-country road trip on a minute-by-minute schedule. It just won't work. You'll end up killing the vibe.
Exactly. That difference, at first, yeah, it creates sparks.
Yeah.
But to make it last, you have to harmonize those energies, embrace the unknown, but also make a space for, connection, stability.
And that brings us to, I guess, what the text calls the biggest hurdle for these two, trust. And it's deeper than just getting jealous. It's this fear of being trapped, being held back. I bet that can really feel like a constant push and pull in a relationship. You want that security, that sense of belonging, but you also want to explore, to grow as your own person.
Absolutely. And that's where things can get complicated. If Virgo is clinging too tightly, trying to control that adventurous spirit of Sagittarius, it's going to lead to resentment. But then if Sagittarius is always running away from commitment, constantly on the move, it's going to leave Virgo feeling insecure and emotionally neglected.
The text even mentions infidelity being a risk with this pairing. Seems like open communication and setting clear expectations from day one is super important if they're going to navigate those waters. So what happens when these two actually do try to talk things out? Any hope for these two?
Oh, now that's where it gets really interesting. Because the text suggests that Virgo and Sagittarius, believe it or not, they can actually have amazing conversations. Like, use this phrase, they can talk each other's ears off, but in like a good way, if you can imagine that.
Wait, really? So it's not all doom and gloom for these two? Tell me more about this. This is surprising.
Well, they're both very intellectual signs. Mental stimulation is important to both, but how they approach it, it's totally different. Virgo's all about the details, analyzing every single angle. Very precise.
Right, very methodical.
And then you have Sagittarius, all about the big picture, looking for those deeper meanings. So they approach knowledge, and by extension, conversations in opposite ways. And that's where the magic happens, I guess you could say.
It's like Virgo brings the microscope to the conversation and Sagittarius brings the telescope. They both see things the other might miss completely.
Exactly. And when they can appreciate and respect those differences, man, their conversations can be amazing. Imagine these late-night talks. Virgo's picking apart some philosophical idea, every detail, and Sagittarius is connecting it to, like, the entire universe. That's some next-level intellectual chemistry, wouldn't you say?
Okay, I'm not going to lie. That does sound pretty great. But let's be real. It can't be all sunshine and roses when these two talk. What happens when those intellectual sparks, instead of, making a fire, they kind of, combust?
Well, you know what they say about fire? It can warm you, but it can burn you too.
That's true.
Virgo can get so bogged down in the details, they miss the forest for the trees, so to speak.
Right.
And then Sagittarius might jump to conclusions. They might gloss over the nuances because they're moving so fast. The text, though, it suggests that they have to find that sweet spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I getcha.
Honor their own streaks, for sure, but be willing to see things through the other's eyes.
It's a dance. Find the rhythm. Figure out when to lead and when to follow. And sometimes you just got to agree to disagree, right? Now, the text also calls both signs unemotional. I mean, isn't that a little harsh? Are we saying Virgos and Sagittarians are just heartless?
No, 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 that's not it at all. It's not that they don't have emotions. It's the way they process them, how they express them that's different. Both of these signs, they tend to like overthink their feelings.
Yeah.
Instead of just feeling them, they try to analyze them.
So it's like they're speaking different love languages. Virgo might be over there saying, tell me you love me. And Sagittarius is like, hold my beer. I'm going to climb Mount Everest to prove it.
See, now you get it. And because they express themselves so differently, misunderstandings can happen, especially in romantic relationships.
Right.
Virgo needs to hear it, those words of affirmation, those displays of affection.
Right.
And Sagittarius, they show love through actions, grand gestures.
So Virgo wants to hear the love song, and Sagittarius is too busy writing it to sing it. So how do they bridge that gap, emotionally speaking?
It all comes down to, I think, recognizing and then appreciating those differences.
Right.
Virgo needs to learn that sometimes Sagittarius's actions speak louder than words, and Sagittarius has to make an effort to, verbally reassure Virgo.
It sounds like communication, not just intellectually, but also emotionally, is vital for these two. But honestly, with all of these potential challenges, is a happily ever after even possible for a Virgo and a Sagittarius?
The text does say that a traditional storybook ending might be rare for this pairing,
Huh.
but impossible. No, I wouldn't go that far. It depends on shared values, which, luckily for these two, they have.
Okay, now you're talking. Tell me more about this common ground. We can all use a little hope, right?
For one thing, they both want to grow. They like to adapt. They're not content to just sit around. And they find that attractive in each other, that same quality. They don't want to be held back.
So even though being mutable might cause problems early on, it's also what they find exciting in the other person, right? It's like they both see the world as this ever-changing landscape, and they both want to explore it together.
You got it. And then there's their intelligence. That shared intellectual curiosity can be really powerful for these two. They both love a good, deep conversation. Imagine a couple always learning from each other, challenging each other's ideas and opening up their perspectives. That's pretty cool if you ask me.
So it's about celebrating your differences, not being afraid of them, right? Those differences become opportunities to learn, not problems to solve. What else did the text highlight as being the glue that could hold this relationship together?
Well, even though they express it in completely opposite ways, both Virgo and Sagittarius, they appreciate balance. It's just that, Virgo finds that through practicality and order.
Makes sense.
And Sagittarius, they find balance by pushing boundaries, going on ventures. Might seem like total opposites.
But aren't they really just two sides of the same coin? To get things done, you need the dreamer and the doer.
Now you're getting it.
Yeah.
If Virgo and Sagittarius can recognize that their differences actually complement each other, that's powerful. That mutual respect and support, that's how you build a strong foundation.
So maybe, just maybe, the very things that make this a tough pairing are the things that could make it amazing.
It's definitely possible. Because when it comes down to it, a good relationship, it's not about finding your clone. It's about finding someone who makes you a better person, who expands your horizons and celebrates what makes you you.
And who knows, maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what Virgo and Sagittarius can offer each other. A relationship that throws out the rule book, embraces the chaos, and celebrates those differences. What do you think out there? Can a Virgo and Sagittarius find a love that lasts? Hit us up on social media. We'd love to hear your take.
It really makes you think about how we define happily ever after, doesn't it? Maybe it's not about finding a relationship that fits neatly inside the box, but about creating something entirely new, something that reflects the unique dynamics of the two individuals involved.
It's funny you say that because that really stood out to me in this text too. Like, maybe the things that make this a challenging match are the exact same things that make it extraordinary, if that makes sense.
It does. And that's what makes, I think, exploring these astrological pairings so fascinating. Because it's not like we're trying to predict your future, tell you who to date and who not to date. It's about understanding yourself, your partner, and how we connect as people.
Right, like this is a starting point for those conversations, for deeper self-awareness and maybe just a more compassionate approach to relationships in general. Because let's face it, relationships are messy, right? But they're also beautiful.
Well said. And that's what I love about these deep dives, honestly. We take these really complex ideas, we challenge what we think we know, and hopefully our listener walks away with more questions than answers. Because isn't that how it always goes with relationships?
Always. And sometimes the most rewarding journeys in life are the ones that take you totally off the map. So if you had to choose, what's one thing you hope our listener takes away from all of this today?
One thing, okay, How about this? Don't be afraid to embrace the paradox.
Oh,
And that goes for everyone, not just Virgos and Sagittarians. Because relationships, any relationship, it's about finding that balance,
balance between.
everything.
Yeah.
Freedom, but also commitment. Stability, but also room to grow. Passion, practicality, all of it. It's about figuring out where your needs and your values as a couple, where those overlap. And
Yeah.
then you get to create a love story that's totally uniquely you.
It's like they got to write their own rules for the relationship, right?
Right.
Their own definition of success.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's so exciting about this pairing, I think. It challenges our assumptions, Like we think we know what a good relationship looks like, but maybe there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Right. Like maybe it's not about checking boxes. It's about creating something new, something that works for them, even if it looks a little different from what we're used to.
100%. And honestly, that's how we grow as people, by being willing to question what we think we know, to step outside those comfortable boxes. And relationships, they're the perfect opportunity to do that.
I like that. So I guess the question for our listeners today is this. Can you look past those traditional expectations, those rules of relationships, and see the potential? Can a Virgo and a Sagittarius really write their own love story, even if it's messy, even if it's unconventional?
Only one way to find out. By embracing those differences, by having those tough conversations, by being willing to grow together. And hey, even if it doesn't lead to a forever kind of love, I bet they learn a lot along the way.
And isn't that what life's all about? Learning, growing, connecting with other people, even if it's just for a little while. So thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Virgo and Sagittarius compatibility. We hope you learned something new, challenged a few assumptions, and maybe even sparked some interesting conversations of your own.
And hey, if you have any thoughts on this pairing, any personal experiences you want to share, hit us up on social media. We love hearing from you. Until next time, keep exploring those cosmic connections, folks.
And remember, the stars might point the way, but ultimately, you're the one writing your own love story.